Alright, talking about a couple of things right now. I keep redoing this video. I'm not quite sure where it's going to go, but I get it back to work pretty soon. 3% of organizations nationwide are imploding. And I'm hoping somebody can preserve the brand in some way. I mean, there's a lot of guys that went through the trouble of getting tattoos and shit. The thing is that the motivations for being involved with organizations like that are righteous and well placed, but the leadership gets hijacked, the purpose gets hijacked, and these things tend to go sideways. I started to see some stuff I didn't like starting at the Bundy Ranch. The stuff at the Sugar Pine Mine, I know there's been some disputes with some guys over how that should have been handled. I personally think the guys who were boots on the ground handled it fairly well. I'm not going to criticize the way that went down. With the Malheur thing, a lot of us who just didn't like the whole thing. I kind of thought it was an overreach, but I sure wouldn't support anybody working undercover with the feds to break that up and get those people arrested or shot or any of that kind of thing. I had no support whatsoever for that type of activity. The reason being is that when I saw that early on, I thought, well, if you wait those people out, the worst thing that's going to happen is that they're going to find the evidence they're looking for, incriminate the government with that evidence. Maybe it doesn't stick, but it comes out, and they all go home. Everybody goes home. The problem is somebody within the government wanted to manipulate their position as having recruited several of the 3%er groups to be informants in order to facilitate the hit on Lavoie Finicum and a hit on the convoy that was carrying that evidence on its way to be presented in public in a form that the federal government was probably going to be unable to suppress. So it was wrongful action. These guys didn't come clean about that, and now they're testifying against some of the Malheur takeover people in court in Portland this week. There's no apologies to be made. It is what it is, and they took sides. And I don't think any cheap words of apology are going to undo the damage that they did. The flip side of it is, if they didn't want to be involved, they could have stayed out of it. Okay, they could have stayed out of it. They chose not to. So, apology not accepted if somebody says, "Oh, we had to do this." No, you didn't. You could have done what I did, which was say, "Okay, I like this operation, that operation. No, I don't like this, and we're going to stay out of it." And the other side of that is, of course, we think those types of people have been acting against other so-called patriot groups, other people they felt weren't patriotic enough, other people that had whatever grievances against the government are going to find out that there's this totally self-directed, COINTELPRO type of operation that's going to move in on them that says, hey, we're here to help you out, and in reality, they're there to help build a case or even inflict some of their own hostile action against somebody just because they can. And when I see that type of stuff, it makes me sick. Okay, and right now I understand there's been an ongoing feud between Carradine and Mike Vanderboe. Mike Vanderboe died recently. Mike Vanderboe said a lot of things, did a lot of things that I simply cannot approve of. Okay, he also refused to meet with me. Okay, I had put it out to several people. I want to meet him. I want to have a face-to-face. When he's in Oregon, we're going to talk. Carradine also refuses to talk to me, but he'll at least exchange a few little messages here and there to say that he's got a legitimate side of the story. The thing is, all the people that hate Carradine don't want to talk to me. So when that type of situation is like that, I'm not hearing their side of the story, but they want to tell me it's such a righteous grievance, I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. When I did that video on the Waco biker massacre, one of the Banditos representatives got in touch with me, directed me to the book that some of their other people had written as fiction, sort of, to at least present their side of the story. I checked a few other little indicators and contacts in the biker world. It seemed like it was a very credible side of the story, and I take it at face value. For me to be involved in the gun rights movement and patriot movement, for a lot of these people to refuse to talk to me, treat me like I'm the undercover Fed. I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. Go suck go suck up to Mark Kessler and these other guys you've been hanging with. What the fuck, man? So when I see that stuff, I'm like, you own it. Okay, I don't own it. You guys own it. You own all the fucking trouble. That's how leadership works. And if you don't want to understand that, and you want to hide behind, more fake email accounts, more fake fucking shit, dumbass videos that are clips of videos of other people's training, other people's military. That's just the lamest dumb shit in the world when I hear the computer voice saying like how big and badass you are, and then you're using clipped videos and photos from like military.com or some fucking Associated Press stuff from Iraq. I mean, come on, get fucking real. Okay. So, with the 3%er groups imploding right now, I don't know. There's new Patriot stuff that's growing in the Pacific Northwest faster than ever before, but a lot of the bullshit's just going to get sorted out, and that's what's going on.
Alright, so game changers right now in Portland, Oregon. Now, word's filtering out that there's been a number of acquittals in the case. Not everybody's been let go. There were several people who pled guilty early in the game. There's a few people that are still facing some charges. There's also several people facing charges in Nevada. Word filtering out is that there was a physical altercation between Bundy's attorney and U.S. Marshals. Apparently, he spoke in a manner which Judge Anna Brown found disrespectful. She ordered U.S. Marshals to take him into custody. He didn't go quietly. Judge Anna Brown is obviously at this point recognizing that there have been several game changers happening in situations right now. This isn't 2005, 2006 anymore, where the government is going to be able to get away with lying and bringing a lying witness into a jury and having them believe it just because the prosecutor happens to be charismatic. That's not happening. Even with a biased judge, charismatic prosecutor, you can only tell so many lies in front of a jury before they get insulted by the fact that they've been lied to and have been dealing with an openly biased court. And I think that's what happened in Portland. You're talking about a relatively sophisticated, educated audience and jury pool that can't always be handpicked. So this was apparently not a question of just a few holdout jurors. If it was a question of just a few holdout jurors, then it would have been a much longer jury deliberation. A short jury deliberation means that there was probably a clear majority deciding for acquittal very early in the case, and that they simply made their will known. The other thing was, apparently it was some jurors had spoken up about another juror being biased in favor of the government. They were trying to get that person excused, and it really had little effect on the actual results of the case, which means several jury members decided to side with the Malheur protesters. So this is going to be chalked up to a win on the part of the Patriot movement. It's also going to be a game changer in several different dimensions. I will point to earlier posts and videos that I made where I said, hey, this is going to be something where jury outreach is going to be an issue. People having some prior knowledge of the case, publicity, things like that, that this is not going to be a slam dunk for the government. I was saying this several months ago, and it turned out to be true. There's a lot of people that frequently dismiss me as full of shit. It's been part of the background conflict that's been happening. It's been keeping me from not doing a whole lot of video commentary about the case as it's been ongoing. But there has been a batch of acquittals in this. I'm also seeing the mood on the street is definitely not as hostile as what it is on the internet. And I think representative of, let's say, the racial stuff, the political stuff, not as hostile on the street as it is on the internet. Going over a couple other issues, just not seeing the Ides of war happening much of anywhere on the West Coast right now. There are people that are going to try and agitate it. I just think that they're not going to be powerful and influential enough to get their way. Alright, so I've been asked to comment on a video put out interviews of Terry Little, one of the acknowledged FBI snitches in the Malheur thing. Very long video. I'm going to try and keep my commentary under 10 minutes, but I'm redoing this video. It's long. Okay, there's a lot of questions that are asked on this, a lot of questions. Some people in Southern Oregon wanted to know my opinion on this, and well, I got a lot of opinion, and it's not all something I can cover in 10 minutes, not by a long shot. I'll try to do this if maybe in a 2 or 3 part video series. Two things I got to point out just for those with a short attention span. Terry Little didn't give the order to kill Lavoy Finicum. She didn't pull the trigger. I've seen some stuff that would lead somebody to believe that somebody got on the phone, Barack Obama said, yeah, go ahead, kill that white boy, and we're all supposed to hate Barack Obama for this. Nah, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think the decision was made relatively locally. The trigger pullers are known in the Patriot community. The tactical community type people, trigger pullers are known. There's people who know who they are. And there's people willfully concealing who they are. So tossing some lunch lady who is an informer out, that's not very valuable to me. My analysis about her is probably going to be more valuable to kind of settle things down than anything else. One, the feds are acknowledging 15 snitches in this. Only 3 testified in court, according to the information I have. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but my understanding is only 3 testified in court. 15 are acknowledged, several more are suspected. A lot of people are talking about how there's some evidence scrubbing going on, like a visitor logbook at the reservation that came up missing. I'm trying to figure out why it was even there or being used in the first place, or not burned in front of everybody, but I digress. The situation, though, is that this was an operation that took place where people converged from a lot of different areas, in fact, even internationally. When that happens, and the international element becomes important, because that means that agencies with an international mandate would have had a reason to have representatives there. It also means that different federal handlers from different federal districts would have had personnel there that they feel obligated to be dealing with. What is a great big no-no out there in federal land is that just because somebody is working for one agency does not mean that they automatically answer to somebody of equal rank in another chain of command that may be at that other agency. For example, to explain to people in the military, if you're a private first class and you finished your work for the day and you're walking by a bunch of people that are unloading a truck and some staff sergeant comes over and says, hey, you two, get over here, unload this truck. And you refuse to do it. He's like, I want your ID card. I'm going to get your chain of command. I gave you an order. And you're like, okay, this guy's not in my chain of command, but he's a staff sergeant. Well, the rule is you're supposed to help him unload the truck and then say, hey, this guy went and hijacked us for a bunch of work. And then your command says, well, did you miss chow? Did you miss your paycheck? Okay, that's legit, but we're going to talk to him and find out what's going on. If somebody comes up there and starts giving you complex mission orders and they're not in your chain of command, then that's like no, we take our orders on this frequency from this thing. This is a joint operation. Our commander talks to your commander, and this is how our organizational integrity works. When that happened in Malheur, a lot of these people, my personal opinion, were not going to check in with the local feds who they knew, and they had information, had embedded agents in local militias with ambiguous loyalties. That's what's going to happen. Those ambiguous loyalties, they're not going to self-identify with the locals. They're going to go in, they're only going to report to their guy. They're only going to report to their chain of command. And they are not going to feel an obligation to go along with somebody else's crime scheme or illegal setup, because they're not covered on that. They're not exempt. Their immunity may not even work in that jurisdiction. So if somebody, let's say from Pennsylvania, is an undercover operative, and then their handler says, yeah, your militia group's going out to Malheur, we'd like you to go with them and report back, he's not reporting to Portland. He's not reporting to Kate Brown's hand-picked people. He's reporting to his handlers in Pennsylvania. And when he gets there and he says, here's what this is, here's what this not, and when a tremendous number of expectations have been built up by the Southern Poverty Law Center, the ADL, the Center on Terrorism Awareness, they're being told, look out for these types of people, look out for these types of weapons, look out for this type of methodology. And they're not seeing it. And then somebody's like, well, what do you report back? Oh, there's a bunch of people protesting, they're lounging around, they're smoking weed, they're eating pizza. And somebody says, okay, standard protocol for this type of protest is just hang out and wait. And that was the word that was filtering out to those people who had spokesmen in the media. There were some major media people and YouTube people, talking heads on CNN and Fox News and Young Turks, and said, oh, well, these guys have taken us over, it's white privilege, the government's going to wait them out. That's what happened in the Edna Lane Brown thing, that's what happened with Montana Freeman. The government's going to wait them out and pick them up later. So they could have some theater of the absurd out there in the middle of nowhere. It's not going to do any damage, and we have it on well-informed authority that this situation is really under control and closely monitored. Hence the acknowledgement of the number of snitches who are present, probably armed, probably organized, probably would be in a situation to quell anything that would be a major plot. To the best of our knowledge, there was no major plot that would probably set these guys off to dialing in, hey, this has got to happen right now. They weren't dialing that in. Things that would probably set that off would be where somebody says, okay, Grasty's the bad guy, let's pick him up, let's put him up in the tree, drive the truck out from under him, let him dangle for a half hour, and now we're going to tell him we're in fucking charge. If somebody did that, like really hardcore, somebody's going to make a call and somebody's going to say, okay, who's the guy advocating this, what's this, we'll get a warrant, we're going to do this, okay, we're going to take this thing down. That's what's going to happen. If a bunch of these guys are calling in and they're kind of echoing what Terry Little says, which is, well, they've got some guns, they're doing this, they're gathering evidence, they think they've got evidence of a crime, and they're going to go and present it to some other law enforcement agency. Well, that information gets filtered back, but it takes a little time. Somebody starts to hijack control of that operation, probably somebody local in Oregon. Given that the Portland FBI office, which was the largest one in the state, is kind of a regional headquarters type of a thing, and that's the U.S. Attorney's Office that prosecuted the case when there were 4 other sets of U.S. Attorney's offices and federal courthouses that are physically closer to Malheur. We're guessing that's where the orders came from. That's where the point of contact was. My personal opinion is that it had to do with the upgraded communications equipment. In Portland, they're able to have conferences with Washington, D.C. in real time. It's real fancy type of war room type stuff where they can do all the communication and planning in real time. It's done in Portland, and I don't think they have that installed any other places. The situation is that these other undercover operatives are undercover operatives, but they all report through different chains of command. Those other chains of command would not be in agreement with Kate Brown going to the FBI people in Portland saying, I want this resolved quickly, I want results, I want blood in the streets, I want this, I want that. The local sheriff is considered a high-level law enforcement authority for that area. If he said, damn it, they offended me, we want this, this is what we want. If they start agreeing and they put a emphatic request through to the White House and saying, I need you to override all these other people and bring this down, we'll throw manpower into this. Here's where it gets interesting. The FBI assets that were participating in that had to be brought in. They weren't already there. If this were to have happened the way it happened with Ed and Elaine Brown, there were a number of U.S. Marshals had volunteered for the operation. They infiltrated themselves into the inner cordon security. They took it over. They grabbed Ed and Elaine Brown, and they got them out right through everybody else. A similar thing was probably their long-term plan. Somebody overruled that and said, no, there's another way this is going to happen. But a lot of the situation with not everybody deciding to go to court and testify about this tells me that there were a lot of people who gave their bosses and gave their handlers the ultimatum that says, if you fucking take me to court, I'm going to tell the truth about everything, and I don't care if it makes my boss look bad. I don't care if it makes the agency look bad. I'm going to tell the truth because you lied to me, you used me, you set this up, you're burning my family, my kids are playing with this other militia leader's kids every day. Now we've got to relocate, hide ourselves, and live in shame because we're involved in this murder. That's probably this other dozen undercover operatives. That's probably about how those conversations went. Terry Linnell and her Southern California FBI agent handler by the name of Martha is the name we're being given. They're probably in some level of agreement with each other on how this goes. Martha's probably not a really high-ranking agent. She's probably a lower to middling level handler with 5 or 6 years of the agency, maybe 5 or 6 years of some prior law enforcement, maybe went to a part-time law school somewhere and probably said, well, if you go to court and you tell the truth, we're not really in trouble and we're going to get the backing of our office because we really don't want a hand in getting in trouble for a homicide that we didn't order. Do FBI offices order homicides? Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. But usually the way their little culture works is they will have to look at certain justifications for those. With Lavoy Finicum, it's not a question whether it was against the law or not against the law. I think the trigger puller's defense is the law says this, we did it this way, therefore it was legal. There's also rules to these things. And it was definitely against the rules to declare a ceasefire and then start shooting. That's kind of where it goes, okay? It's against the rules to declare a ceasefire and start shooting. That's what happened. Whether or not that was under orders from low up or high up, the thing is who was campaigning for this? That was done relatively openly. That is Kate Brown openly campaigning to get this thing, let's resolve it quickly. Well, resolving it quickly was not to acquiesce to anybody's demands. It was a tactical solution. In tactical solutions, people get hurt, things get broken, and nobody's accepting it as simply a coincidence that the main spokesman for the protester group was the one who got killed. Nobody's accepting that as only a coincidence. We cannot say, oh yeah, Barack Obama ordered a hit. I don't think so. I don't think so. There is word of a coup within the FBI right now because a lot of them want to see themselves as the good guys. They want to. They want to see themselves as the good guys. They want to see themselves as progressed way beyond the days of Ruby Ridge and Waco, and they want to gain public trust and maintain public trust. Well, let's talk about the real world now. Those higher up don't give a flying fuck about that. They don't give a flying fuck about that. We've seen the behavior of Judge Anna Brown in the courtroom and the prosecutors in the courtroom. You think they give a flying fuck about public trust? Anyway, we'll talk more about this later. I want to get this video uploaded. Please comment, like, comment, dislike, whatever you want to do in the section below. And I'll be back at you later.